Welcome to Watchfire Hobbies. This is a relaxed space for wargaming, hobby, painting, basing, and building at an easy pace. So grab a brush, settle in, and let's enjoy the process. Today we're continuing our Old World series with this wonderful Empire engineer. This engineer is actually from the battalion kit as part of the steam tank. He's the guy who can ride in it. I took him out and put him on a base, so I got a free engineer out of it. I did give him the lawn rifle from the State Missile Troop sprue, and I believe the cape. I think the cape's from the Commander sprue. It was in my bit box. You can always make a cape or not. He has been primed for our two-tone scheme. And we're going to get started by just doing the orange. Now, the cape, I do not know what I want to do yet, so I just painted that white when I did the other, that part. This is Griffhound Orange from the GW range. I'm just going to give it a solid coat. This might, there's definitely some armor into here, and this is actually probably metal now that I'm looking at it, but I figure we just coat everything on this side in orange. Then we can come back in and add those highlights. Make sure you get the underside. This guy, I don't know if you can see his helmet. His helmet really reminds me of that guy from from Jumanji, the hunter. So I'm probably going to paint the helmet in leather just as a, tribute to that. So we're going to come back in after this dries and do our highlights and our greens. Well, that's dry, and I actually wanted to talk about how I do love the thing about the Old World kits is that you have the option, to add this guy in the steam tank or have him on foot. I know Imperial Guard, you actually usually only have the guy where if he's in the tank, it's only the upper body. I like that they gave him legs. I mean, he is kind of standing a little too straight for shooting, but I still think he works, and on the battlefield, he'll look perfectly fine. But, I mean, I do love that in these kits is that you have that option. I know for the High Elves, the Sky Cutter I got, Bannerman, and a Prince on foot from that kit, just with the extra two, models in the kit that I didn't use because I made the bolt thrower in that, so I had those extra kits. But that allows you to have more models, especially hero models, which all kind of look the same. I mean, how hard is it to have a guy? I mean, that's why you'd have your tactical rocks, etc. But just a little side note while I'm waiting for that to dry. So, like I said, I'm going to come in here. We're going to do our green base, then our metals, and we'll go from there. So as I looked into it, this is 100% supposed to be, armor. So I'm going to stop trying to paint it, colors. And so then it looks like I just have to paint a couple little spots here and here for, the colors. Then we just, can come in with our lead belcher and really tie this guy together. So I do think I'm going to do the Nuln symbol. I did look at the gunnery school symbol. I think that's a little bit past what I want to do on a cape, but I might do something very similar. I'll show you a very cool trick later with how to use foil to kind of map out where the contours are of the cape. So I'm going to come back, hit some lead belcher, and then do the cape in black because, Nuln has to be black and yellow. For engineer, we're just going to do the flesh tones. This is going to be our Bugman's Glow. We're just going to get the face and the hands, I believe. You can almost argue the hands might be actually gloved, but let's have them flushed today. And then after this, we have to just do our lead belcher and the black for his big old billowing cape. So yeah, this guy definitely reads Jumanji hunter guy to me. So there we go. So for the next part, we're just going to hit all the metallic areas with the lead belcher from the GW range. It's surprising how much metal is actually on this model. Like, all the legs are armored. Very armored gentlemen. Make sure you get the scope. And the barrels. And I also can't forget his lovely little eyepiece here. Now, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm going to paint this in a leather so that, really go for that Jumanji Hunter look, as I'm calling it. But for the next step, we're going to hit the cape with a little bit of black. Now, this is just Abaddon black. Like I said, I'm still kind of working out the design I want to do for this cape. But I figured it's going to be a black cape for Gnome. So, might as well just paint the whole thing black. Okay. So while I was touching up the helmet to make that white for snakebite leather to go over, I decided also I'm going to paint these piece of cloth. They're going to get the same treatment as our halberdiers did with the Agros dunes over it, but definitely needs a white base first. I don't really know what this is, but this is also a good one to paint white. And here's the snakebite leather for that hat. I'm also going to hit this little timepiece, maybe. Just give that some start of color. Okay. And then we'll just hit these with Agros dunes, kind of keeping this throughout the army. I sort of tie it together. I don't know what these are supposed to be, if they're supposed to be white or whatever. I'm just thinking of them as strips of leather. So. Get that all good coverage there. I think it's looking pretty good so far. I'm going to next hit the copper. Well, probably bronze. It will be bronze for this, which is our 2-step, and then that will be our Blood Reaver flesh. And for our bronze, we're going to start with Balthazar Gold. And then we just come back in with a little Black Templar. You gotta just dinge it up. I think it makes very nice bronze. I'm doing this for the Tomb King's army that's coming out shortly. You know what? I'm actually gonna do this lower rod too. I think that's looking really nice. So this is going to be Blood Reaver flesh. We're just going to do all the wood parts. I've been doing this across the entire army. It's like I said, nice way to tie the entire army together. So it's kind of a thicker coat here, and then we'll come back in. I'm trying really hard not to get it on any other things, but if we have to come back in and touch it up, we will. And now that I'm looking at it, I think that will have to be painted white and then re-agrossed for to really tie that together. I think that's actually like a knot. It's supposed to be a knot around this. To make the way I do my bronze effects is I take this gold, then I come in with this Black Templar contrast that is at least 3 to 1, if not more. I made a huge pot of it years ago, but I'm almost at the end of it now. I just come in and just quickly touch it up. You see how it just takes that shine right out of the metal. I think it's more of an aged bronze. Now we're just going to come in quickly and do our second layer for our green. This is the Warpstone Glow. Just really trying to catch where the light would hit. Not under the glow, because we won't have a lot of light there. Just doing like a stabby motion more. Really trying to get that, kind of more of a scratchy highlight, I guess would be the term. And there we go. So before we get to our, next 2 layers of orange and then the eye, I figured we'd do a little bit of, what's this? Retributor armor for all the gold on his armor. So just come in here. I do like Retributor armor. It really, I feel like it's a one-pot gold. You don't usually have to come in and highlight it. But if you want to, you always can. So I'm also going to get these 3 little dots that are on the gun. I don't know what they're really for. Probably just bolts holding it in. But I think for an engineer, he would have a little bit nicer rifle, than any other buddy. So let's hit this gold and we'll come right back. I did the gold. I did hit the, like I said, the armor. I did also do, as I dropped this, the side of his eye. Figuring it's more of like a fancy eyepiece. Now we're going to come in with the orange molten lava for our orange layers. So we do this, and then we have one more orange layers, and this is just a quick layer really to brighten up that orange. So we're going to be doing our final scratchy highlight of the burning ore, just of course on the orange. And now our highlight of Cadian flesh tone of all the fleshy bits. And then I think we're just going to have to do his mustache and his, what do you call it, eyepiece. And I think we'll be ready to work on that cloak. And then this model is done. So this is Aethematic Blue, just trying to get it just in that eyepiece. I don't know if it really makes sense. I mean, I kind of picture this as a very light reflective thing that's not really like powered, but I think that comes across exactly what I was looking for there. So now just some dried bark. All right, so we just got to do this lovely mustache he has, and then I don't actually see any hair coming out of the under the helmet. I think it's all supposed to be covered by that helmet, but I guess a little bit right here. It's not going to hurt. So there you go. He definitely, like I said, gives that vibe of the hunter from Jumanji. So yeah, next we're going to do some really fun cloak effects, and I'll give you my little trick on how I do that. Okay. So the trick I do, especially with cloaks, this one's not horrible, but some of the cloaks that are super folded, or I guess they're capes, they're super folded, and I want to do a freehand on them. Not that I'm good at freehand. I will put that out there. Is I take some aluminum foil and I kind of rip it to the shape, and as you see, I kind of drew the symbols I want on it. Nuln doesn't have an engineering school. Like, I know they have the gunnery school, but they don't have like the flag for the engineering school. So I just kind of did. I'm going to do an N, a couple extra loops, and then kind of an axe. That's, from what I can tell, is like the engineer symbol. And there, you can also just say it's, the hammer. Maybe I'll say that's a hammer. I'll flatten it out and say it's a hammer. But then the next thing I do is I come in here and I kind of press it on here and really have it work into all the nooks and crannies. Like I said, this one is not bad. So it's a little wide, so I can actually take those up, fold it in. But, you kind of get a mock-up of what it is. And then I just take the, the back of my Sharpie and really fold it in. Like I said, this model, not that bad. If you have a model that has a very wrinkled cape and you really struggle, or even banners that are folded, I do this, and then I can pop this off, and then I use this as my mock-up of, that this N line has to be, this part is going to be in a divot. So, like, have to plan it out. That's always helped me. So now let's get started on the painting. All right, so see, I have my little cheat sheet right here. Now, I'm using watered down Averland Sunset. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio for the water, just to kind of sketch in the beginning of the freehand. So, as you see, like, I can use this here and see that, it kind of comes across the back, because it won't actually be a straight line, because, it is curved around his actual his cloak does fold. Like I said, this might not have been the biggest example, but this is a thing I've been doing for years with the cloaks. I really think it helps. And a lot of people, I think, avoid freehand because it is not easy, and I feel like it's very easy to mess up. So any little trick that can, help make it easier for you to do, and I think will be very useful. So like I said, this was originally an axe. I'm making it the Sigmar hammer. Just taking my time here, and like I said, this is very watered down, so that so it really flows, and then we'll come back in with another layer of yellow and really tidy that up. So there's our hammer. And now I'm just going to do the N, which I did have to change it a little bit because it's, of course, right on that. Right on this, bend. So there you go. I did accidentally stop recording there for a minute. So I added the hammer. I did make a little mistake. I'm going to have to come back in with black and clean that up. There's the end, and then this area just looks so blank that I figured I'd do a little just, quick design. Might come in with a different color and, maybe make that like orangey red or something to tie them in. Maybe I'll do orange. I'll tie that in a little more. But now we're going to go and use our next level color. I think it's Uriel Yellow. And we're just going to tidy up all the things and then come back in with black and clean up all those mistakes. We'll see how it looks. So I did come in with the black and clean this up. I did remove the lower part. I think it kind of creates a nice little breakup of that, but that just made it look really busy. So now we're coming in with the Uriel Yellow, and I'm just going to try to touch up all of the middle line of the areas. I got this from doing my Bretonians, where you never actually use gold on their stuff. You actually use yellows, and the eye still reads it as gold. It's not non-metallic metal. I'm not that skilled, but your eye does read this as golden color, especially over black. I think really looks nice. So I'm just trying to brighten up just really the middle line here. This is cloth, and cloth would naturally, have a little bit of diffused out, especially because, they're not using you good old color safe, Tide and stuff here. So. Then I'm just going to, like I said, I'm coming in with probably the burning ore and just doing that color, kind of tie it a little bit back to the army. So I'm just going to come in with the burning ore, which is our stage 3 color, or stage 2 color from our orange, and just come in here and really just kind of make our lines. I think this works to, even right there, you can see it's starting to break up the just yellow and black of the cloak, I think is what I would call it, not cape. It's definitely a cape, but maybe this guy runs it like it's his varsity jacket and never takes it off. And just keeps adding to it every time he gets a new posting. Oh, you know what? That's what I'm going with now. This is this guy's varsity jacket. Never takes it off. He's that awkward guy at the bar who's like still wearing his high school varsity jacket. And that's what he does. See, there you go. Now I have a little story about this guy. In addition to the fact that he's the hunter from Jumanji. So there you go. Now we're just going to finish up the base, and then we're going to go for the big reveal. And there we go. There is our Imperial Engineer with his fancy non-academy cloak and the lawn rifle. Super fun model to paint. Thank you for spending some of your hobby time with me today. Until next time, enjoy your hobby.